Rhaenyra Targaryen didn't just lose the Iron Throne, she gave it away. We all know the popular version of how the Dance of the Dragons ends. Rhaenyra Targaryen is eaten by her brother's dragon, Sunfire. It's a gruesome finale to a tale we think we can understand. The Greens, led by Otto Hightower and Queen Alicent, conspire to steal the crown from the rightful heir. They hide the king's death, crown Aegon II, and plunge the realm into a catastrophic civil war. In this story, Rhaenyra is the ultimate victim, a woman whose birthright was stolen by schemers and misogyny. But what if I told you that was just the final bloody scene of a tragedy she had been writing for herself year after year? Now, I'm not saying the Greens weren't villains. They absolutely were. But villains only win when the hero gives them an opening. And Rhaenyra gave them plenty. They didn't create the weakness in Rhaenyra's claim, they just masterfully exploited it. Rhaenyra didn't lose the Iron Throne in a single coup. She gave it away, one bad decision at a time. Think about that for a second. The tragic truth is, Rhaenyra was the primary architect of her own downfall. Today we're breaking down the 3 key choices that doomed her claim long before the first dragon fell. This is the story of how her deep-seated belief that she could have it all, unquestioned love, her children's obvious parentage and absolute power, without ever paying the iron price, was the very thing that destroyed her. To understand Rhaenyra's fall, you have to start with her gilded rise. From her earliest days, she was the realm's delight, adored, beautiful, and the only child of a doting father, King Viserys. When her mother died, Viserys did something unprecedented. He named Rhaenyra his heir. He shattered a century of tradition and forced every lord in Westeros to swear fealty to her. In that moment, the Iron Throne became more than a responsibility in Rhaenyra's mind. It became an absolute, unbreakable promise, and this belief became her fatal flaw. She thought the title of heir was a shield that would protect her from the consequences of her choices. She didn't grasp that in Westeros, power isn't just given, it's taken, and constantly defended. And the first crack in that perfect promise doesn't come from war, it comes from her own bedchamber. Her affair with Sir Criston Cole was a dangerous indiscretion, but it was her choice afterward that set the stage for disaster. When a guilt-ridden Criston begged her to run away with him, she turned him down. She wanted him, but she wanted the throne more. The problem was, she didn't want the politically advantageous marriage that would secure it either. She wanted both, on her own terms, a pattern that would define her life. Here's where things get truly tragic. The most catastrophic example was her marriage to Rhaenyra Targaryen and the birth of her 3 sons, Jacaerys, Lucerys, and Joffrey. It was the worst-kept secret in the 7 Kingdoms that their father was Sir Harwin Strong. Her sons, with their dark hair, looked nothing like their Valyrian parents. That's not just bad optics, that's political suicide. In a kingdom obsessed with bloodlines, passing off 3 bastards as true-born heirs undermines her legitimacy. The one thing a female heir can't afford to risk. Instead of being subtle, she demanded the world bend to her will. Anyone who dared whisper the truth was branded a traitor. She had her father threaten to take their tongues, creating an atmosphere of fear. She thought this projected strength, but it showed a desperate woman trying to shout a lie into existence. A lie her enemies would gleefully sharpen into their deadliest weapon, while Rhaenyra was living on Dragonstone, indulging her desires and raising her strong boys. She left a gaping power vacuum in King's Landing. And who stepped into that void? Queen Alicent and her father, Otto Hightower. And here's the part everyone forgets. For nearly a decade, while Rhaenyra was absent from court, the Greens were busy consolidating power. It's not just that her enemies are ruthless, it's that Rhaenyra keeps giving them ammunition. Alicent, once Rhaenyra's friend, had become a hardened political player, driven by a justifiable fear for her children's lives. She saw Rhaenyra's scandals not as a moral failing, but as a direct threat. If Rhaenyra could so casually set aside the laws of inheritance, what would she do to Alicent's sons, who, in the eyes of many, had a stronger claim? Rhaenyra completely misread Alicent's motives. She saw jealousy where she should have seen political fear that she herself had created. Her flagrant disregard for appearances handed the Greens the perfect banner to rally under: the protection of tradition, law, and legitimate succession. Once the realm starts doubting her sons, every move she makes becomes a referendum on her right to rule. She never devised a strategy to counter the rumours other than rage and violence. When Vaemond Valerian publicly called her sons bastards, her husband Daemon simply lopped his head off. This shocking act didn't silence the whispers, it amplified them. It showed the realm that the Blacks would answer questions of legitimacy with brute force. By the time her father died, the political war was already lost. The Greens were in the capital, they controlled the treasury, and they had spent years turning the court against the absentee heir who thought she was above the game. But the most tragic part isn't how she loses the war, it's how she loses the realm itself. When Rhaenyra finally took King's Landing, it wasn't a glorious coronation. It was a hollow victory. The Iron Throne itself seemed to reject her, cutting her as she sat upon it, a powerful omen. She had the seat, but not the power. Her brief reign was a masterclass in how to lose a kingdom. Traumatized by the murder of her son, Lucerys, her decisions were driven by vengeance. Her answer was to hire assassins. Then comes Blood and Cheese, two killers who murder one of Aegon's children in front of his mother, Rhaenyra. It's an atrocity that turns the realm's grief and horror toward Rhaenyra, who becomes associated with kinslaying and terror. The immense grief from this event eventually led Rhaenyra to take her own life, becoming a martyr in the eyes of the people. The small folk suffering from wartime taxes began to despise her. They start whispering she's Maegor with Teats, comparing her to Maegor the Cruel, the most infamous tyrant in Targaryen history. She held lavish feasts while the city went hungry and started seeing enemies everywhere. This is where it all starts to unravel. Her paranoia became her undoing. When two dragon riders of low birth betrayed her, she became convinced that all commoners were treacherous. Her suspicious gaze then fell upon Sir Adam Velaryon, a brave young man who had claimed a dragon for her cause. Despite his loyalty, she ordered his arrest purely on suspicion. This was her single most catastrophic mistake. Her own hand, Lord Corlys Velaryon, was outraged. When she refused to listen, Corlys was imprisoned. With that one paranoid act, Rhaenyra lost everything. The Velaryon fleet, the bulk of her military strength, abandoned her cause. The final blow came from the people. Spurred on by a crazed prophet, a massive mob stormed the dragon pit. Rhaenyra watched helplessly as the mob slaughtered 5 dragons, including her son Joffrey's. Joffrey himself died trying to save his dragon. The people didn't just reject Rhaenyra. They rejected her dragons, her family, and her very right to rule. Rhaenyra's escape from King's Landing was a humiliating descent into nothingness. She was forced to sell her mother's crown for passage on a ship. The woman promised the 7 Kingdoms was now a hunted, broke, and desperate fugitive. She eventually made her way back to the one place she thought she'd be safe, Dragonstone. But even there, betrayal was waiting. She wasn't met by loyal soldiers, but by the men of her half-brother, Aegon II. her end was both brutal and poetic. She was brought before Aegon, a broken man himself, but the victor. And there in the courtyard of her own ancestral home, Rhaenyra finally paid the iron price. Not with gold or compromise, but with her own blood. She was fed to Aegon's dragon, Sunfire, as her son Aegon the Younger was forced to watch. The Ironborn say you either pay the gold price or the iron price. Rhaenyra wanted the throne at the gold price. She believed it was owed to her. She believed her birthright and her father's love were currency enough to purchase the Seven Kingdoms. She was wrong. The Iron Throne doesn't accept gold. It only accepts iron. It accepts struggle, sacrifice, and a willingness to put the needs of the realm before the desires of your own heart. Rhaenyra Targaryen lost the Iron Throne long before her father's body was cold. She lost it when she decided her personal happiness mattered more than political stability. When she hid on Dragonstone instead of confronting her enemies, and when her paranoia turned her most powerful allies against her. Her story is a true tragedy, not because her crown was stolen, but because she threw it away herself, piece by piece. But I want to know what you think, let me know in the comments. Was Rhaenyra doomed by patriarchy no matter what, or did her own choices seal her fate? And here's another question for you. If Viserys had forced her into a purely political marriage, does she win the throne or lose herself? In the end, it wasn't the Greens, the dragons, or the dance that stole Rhaenyra's throne. It was Rhaenyra.